Hello friends and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're going to make lasagna soup with garlic bread. So what you see on my counter is what we're going to use to make the soup part of this. We have other ingredients for the bread. However, if you like Italian food or even just lasagna in itself, this is for you. If you never tried lasagna soup, it is amazing. It has all the taste of lasagna, but in soup format, including like cheeses and everything else. This is something you have to try if you haven't already. Trust me, it is worth the effort. And if you're trying to impress somebody with lunch or dinner, this is a great way to go because this looks really great in a bowl and it's wonderful to eat. So we're going to start off in a large pan with 3 tablespoons of olive oil over a medium-high heat. And we're going to add in 1 medium onion that we chopped up. Now once it's in the pan, we want to make sure we get this completely coated in the oil, and we're going to cook this for about like 3 minutes before we add in our ground beef. So go ahead and mix this back and forth and make sure that it starts to soften up a little bit before we get going, because mind you, it's going to continue to cook when we put in the ground beef with it. So we just want to go ahead and mix this up a bit and get it going, and then bring in our pound of ground beef. Now, as this is cooking, we want to break this ground beef up into smaller pieces. I know it's not going to work so well in the beginning, but as it starts to brown, you will actually be able to break it up a lot better. But get it as broken up as possible to get it started right now. And being that we're on medium-high heat, it won't take long for this to start to cook. Now, once this is in here, we are going to add some seasonings to it, and we're going to use salt and pepper coming up first. This is kind of per taste. If you just want a little salt, use a little salt. If you want a lot, use a lot. I'm using about 1/4 of a teaspoon of each, salt and pepper. So if you are debating how much to use, just err on the side of not using too much. That's just the best way to go about it. So once that's in there, go ahead and continue to break this up and make sure that you flip the beef over so it can cook on both sides. That'll make it a little easier for you to break up and work your way through all of it. I suggest continually moving this around the pan the whole time you're doing it, just so it has a chance to cook evenly and that nothing on the bottom is kind of burning or whatever. This is not something you want to walk away and leave for a few minutes. So keep mixing, and then we're going to have a bunch of different seasonings coming in here in a minute. And it's just one of those things where we want to get this as brown as possible before we put some of these seasonings in. Now, mind you, once you see the temperature is up on this thing and this is really bubbling and cooking on the bottom of it, it's really not going to take long to break that beef up. And that's a wonderful thing. It's just going to be easy to do. But when we start with our seasonings, the first thing we're going to use is a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. And, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a kick and spice to this, but it's really necessary, but it tastes really good. So don't let it, throw you that we're using red pepper flakes in this. It really doesn't make it hot. It's just going to give it a bit of spice, and that's a good thing. So once you've gotten these pieces of ground beef really broken up and cooked a bit, then we'll start adding in our seasonings to this. So, as I said, 1 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, and just distribute them around as best you can. And then after that, we're going to add 4 tablespoons of minced garlic. And that's going to give it another kick of flavor. And then after you get this done, you might want to mix it up a little bit before we add the next seasonings to it, just to get them incorporated a little bit and give the garlic a chance to start cooking. Because mind you, we don't want this garlic sitting in one place too long. It usually should only cook for about a minute anyway against the bottom of the pan. Then we're going to add 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning and 1 tablespoon of basil. And then we want to go ahead and mix this again and get this completely incorporated in, so that way the flavor can mix with the beef and everything else. Now, next thing you're going to need coming up is 1/4 of a cup of tomato paste. And we want to get this in here kind of before we add anything liquidy to this, so that way we can break it up with the beef, and it'll be a little easier to deal with. So 1/4 of a cup of tomato paste. And then just use your spatula or whatever you're using and just mix it throughout, so that way it starts to heat up and actually breaks into the beef, so you don't have like lumps of this just sitting in the bottom of your pan. Now, coming up next, you're going to need 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes. Now, I use the kind that has Italian seasoning in it. You don't have to. It's up to you if you want to use that. But you still need 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes. So once we get this completely combined together, we're going to add those tomatoes to the pan. And we're just going to pour them in all at once. And then after this, you're going to need 32 ounces of chicken broth. Now, you could use beef in this if you wanted. However, if you already have ground beef in here and you add beef broth to this, it might be a little overpowering. So that's why we're using chicken. It's just the way it's done. I didn't invent it. So I suggest the chicken. So 32 ounces of chicken broth. And we're going to put this in, and that's going to actually give us the body of our soup here, because there's a lot of liquid going in with this. And what you're going to have to do after this in a second, and really it's the last step of assembling the soup itself for the moment, is a half a box of lasagna noodles. And what we're going to do is break them into smaller pieces and put them in there so that way they cook along with the soup. So you're going to need at least 9 to 10 of the noodles. That's what I use. Now, if you want more of them, you can add more of them. But you need to break them into pieces and just drop them in a little at a time until you get them completely in there. And then we're going to let it cook for 20 minutes until it's completely done. So we want this temperature up in our pot before we put the noodles in, and that way that'll allow the noodles to cook. So if you see that yours is hot and it's kind of starting to bubble, you're in perfect place for this. So just go ahead, start breaking up your noodles and put them in. Now as you're doing these, you're going to notice they're a little bit hard to snap because, you know, these are thick noodles. But just kind of like use your fingers to press on two areas at the same time and you just snap right through it. And like I said, 9 to 10 of them. Now, if you're somebody who likes a lot of noodles, go ahead and add a couple more. It's okay. It's not going to hurt anything at all. It just means you're going to have a lot more noodle in there, but you have a lot of ground beef and everything else to offset it, and there's plenty of soup to handle it. But once you get everything in, as I said, cook for 20 minutes on medium-high heat. And during the time that these are cooking, we're going to go ahead and make up our bread to go with this. So we'll move to that in just a second as soon as all of these are in. So to do your bread with, you're going to need a hard roll to cut to make these slivers of bread that I make. Because I don't make really huge pieces. I just slice off something like a Kaiser roll or whatever and make slivers of it, and then I put butter on it, and then I do some olive oil and then some seasoning and stuff, and that's how I make it. So it's not like you need a ton of bread, and you can actually use older bread that's hardened because it works really well for this. So you need a full line pan, put your slices of bread onto it, then we're going to drizzle them with olive oil, not a whole lot, just enough to put a little on it. Then we're going to go over it with some butter, and then on top of that we're going to use a little bit of Parmesan cheese and a little bit of garlic powder, and that's it. So really you control how much garlic you want to put on here and how much cheese you want to put on here. It's all your choice, but you're going to put them under a broiler, let them brown up, and then they're ready to go. And that's that easy. There's nothing more to it. And you know, once you have all of the toppings on it with the cheese and the garlic powder, you're ready to roll with cooking these. And then in a minute your soup is ready, and that's perfect because the timing just works. So spoon your soup into the bowl, and once it's in there, we're going to top it with some ricotta cheese, some mozzarella, and some Parmesan. And that's how this works. So literally, once you get this all piled in your bowl, go ahead and take your ricotta, do a couple of spoons worth in the center, and that way that's your base to hold your cheese. And then just sprinkle some mozzarella over top of that, because we just want to give something around the edges that can really melt well. And then on top of that, you're just going to sprinkle Parmesan. I think this is something you might really like. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe. And if you get a chance, check out the Southern Mountain Kitchen website, where you can get a free recipe, check out the cookbooks available from the Southern Mountain Kitchen, and if you'd like to, you could order a cookbook at a discounted price, cheaper than Amazon, with shipping that is also cheaper than Amazon. So if you get a chance, check it out, and I hope you have a great day.